What I'm about to show you could completely change the way you think about high blood pressure supplements. Because the truth is, most people are taking the wrong ones for the wrong reasons at the wrong time. And the frightening part is that high blood pressure usually doesn't make noise while it's damaging you. It doesn't knock on the door. It doesn't announce itself. It quietly strains the heart, stiffens the arteries, stresses the kidneys, and increases the risk of stroke while people are standing in a pharmacy aisle believing a colorful bottle is going to fix everything. And if you're over 60, that false sense of security can be incredibly dangerous because some vitamins can help, yes. Some only help in the right person. And some are so overhyped that people waste months on them while their blood pressure stays high enough to hurt them. Before we go any further, I need to make one thing very clear. This is not a video about miracle cures. It is not a video telling you to throw away your medication, and it is definitely not a video about swallowing 10 pills and hoping one of them saves you. This is about the 4 vitamins I actually think are worth discussing when someone asks, "Doctor, is there anything natural that may support healthier blood pressure?" And I'm going to count them down in the order that matters most, because the number 1 choice on this list is the one almost nobody expects. It's also the one that teaches the biggest lesson of all. High blood pressure is not just about what you take. It's about whether you're taking the right thing for your body. Please subscribe now for clear doctor-led health guidance that helps you protect your heart, avoid mistakes, and stay independent longer. Let me start with Lorraine, because her story reveals the trap that so many seniors fall into. Lorraine was 71, disciplined, responsible, and scared. Her home readings had drifted upward over the course of a year. Nothing dramatic at first, a little higher in the morning, a little stubborn at night. So she did what millions of people do. She went online, read article after article, and bought 3 different supplements with heart support splashed across the front. After 6 weeks, she was taking a handful of capsules every morning, and her pressure had barely moved. She thought the vitamins had failed, but that wasn't the real problem. The real problem was that nobody had ever told her something critical. Vitamins do not lower blood pressure in a universal way. They work through specific pathways, and if that pathway isn't your problem, the bottle may do almost nothing. That is why this list matters so much. Because if you understand the mechanism, you stop chasing hype and start making intelligent decisions. Some vitamins help by improving blood vessel function. Some help by correcting a deficiency that keeps your pressure elevated. Some help in people with a particular biological weakness that most never even know they have. And when you understand that, the whole supplement world looks different. You stop asking, what's the strongest product? And you start asking, what's the smartest fit? That question can save you money, confusion, and in some cases, real harm. Because what terrifies me most is not when someone takes nothing. It's when someone takes something ineffective, feels reassured, and delays the treatment or lifestyle change that could have prevented a stroke. So let's begin with number 4, because this vitamin gets talked about constantly, misunderstood constantly, and taken blindly far too often. Number 4, vitamin D. Vitamin D is not a magic blood pressure pill. I want to say that slowly so no one misses it. If your vitamin D level is normal, taking more and more of it is not some secret shortcut to perfect readings. But if your vitamin D is low, and especially if you're older, indoors more often, heavier, less active, or not getting much sun exposure, vitamin D becomes a very different conversation. Because low vitamin D appears to be linked with higher blood pressure in many people, and correcting that deficiency may help support better pressure control in the right situation. Not for everyone, not dramatically every time, but enough that I think it deserves a place on this list, especially because deficiency is so common in older adults. Let me tell you about Samuel. Samuel was 74 and hated winter. Every year his activity dropped, his stiffness worsened, his mood dipped, and his blood pressure always seemed harder to control from late fall into early spring. He assumed it was age, he assumed it was stress, he assumed nothing could be done. When we finally checked his vitamin D, it was low, very low. Now, I'm not telling you that vitamin D alone fixed Samuel. It didn't. He still needed better walking habits, better sleep, and less sodium in the packaged soups he loved. But once that deficiency was corrected, his energy improved, he got moving again, and his blood pressure became more stable. That is how vitamin D often works in the real world, not like a miracle. Like a missing support beam finally being put back in place. Here's why that matters physiologically. Your blood pressure is influenced by your blood vessels, your hormones, your kidneys, inflammation, and the system your body uses to regulate fluid and vessel tension. Vitamin D appears to interact with some of those systems, including pathways involved in vascular function and blood pressure regulation. When levels are low, some people seem to lose that support. But this is where people make a terrible mistake. They hear vitamin D helps blood pressure. Then they rush out and start taking very high doses forever, without testing, without guidance, and without thinking about calcium, kidney health, or the rest of the picture. That is not wise medicine. That is guesswork dressed up as wellness, and high blood pressure is too serious for guesswork. If you suspect vitamin D belongs in your plan, the question is not, how much can I take? The smarter question is, am I low, and what dose makes sense for me? That shift matters, because in medicine, correction is not the same thing as excess. And vitamin D is a classic example of that. I've seen people take massive doses thinking more must mean better, and all they did was create a new problem. So number 4 is vitamin D, not because it works for everybody, but because when deficiency is part of the story, ignoring it can keep your pressure harder to manage than it needs to be. And before I reveal number 3, I need you to understand something important. The next vitamin on this list doesn't usually work by correcting a severe deficiency. It works more quietly, through the health of the blood vessel itself. Number 3, vitamin C. Now this one surprises people, because most think of vitamin C as the cold and immune vitamin, orange juice, citrus, winter sniffles. But blood vessels care about vitamin C too, because vitamin C is involved in oxidative balance and supports the function of the vessel lining. And when the lining of your blood vessels isn't working well, those vessels don't relax the way they should. Pressure rises more easily. Resistance stays higher. The whole system becomes less flexible. That's why vitamin C is interesting. Not because it's dramatic, but because it may help blood vessels behave more normally, especially in people whose diet is weak, whose oxidative stress is high, or whose overall vascular health is already under strain. And that describes a lot of adults with hypertension. I remember a patient named Denise, 67, who ate what she called a careful diet. And on paper, it sounded reasonable. Toast in the morning, soup at lunch, chicken at dinner, crackers for snacks. But when we really looked at it, there were very few vegetables, almost no berries, almost no peppers, almost no citrus, almost no variety. Her diet was low in freshness, it was low in color, it was low in nutrient density. And while no one vitamin explains all of hypertension, her body was clearly not getting the support it needed from food. We worked on produce first, then used a simple vitamin C supplement for a period of time. Her blood pressure improvement was modest, not magical, but it was real. More importantly, it came with better habits instead of replacing them. That distinction is everything. Vitamin C may provide modest support, especially in the short term, but modest does not mean meaningless. If your systolic pressure comes down even a little, that matters over time. The danger is that people hear modest and dismiss it, or they hear helps and turn it into fantasy. Both reactions are wrong. When blood pressure is high, every supportive lever matters. Sleep matters, weight matters, sodium matters, medication adherence matters, and in the right person, vitamin C may matter too, because healthier vessels tend to dilate better and respond better. But this is also where I need to give you a warning. A lot of people assume water-soluble means unlimited. It doesn't. Huge doses can upset the stomach, bother the gut, and in some people, raise concerns about kidney stone risk. So intelligent use still matters. And here's where number 3 becomes more interesting. Vitamin C often makes the most sense when I see an overall pattern. Low produce intake, smoking history, processed food dependence, chronic stress, or signs that the vascular system is under oxidative wear and tear. In other words, I don't see vitamin C as a lone hero. I see it as part of a pattern, a clue, a support, a tool. And if you're listening carefully, you're beginning to notice the deeper theme in this video. The best vitamin is not the one with the loudest marketing. It's the one that matches the weakness you actually have. Number 2 does that even more clearly, because this next vitamin becomes especially important when blood pressure is tied to a hidden chemical imbalance that many people have never even heard of. And once you understand it, you'll never look at B vitamins the same way again. Number 2, folate, also known as vitamin B9. Folate is one of the most underestimated vitamins in cardiovascular health discussions, especially among older adults who assume all B vitamins do roughly the same thing. They don't. Folate has a very specific job in the body, and one of the reasons it matters for blood pressure is its relationship with homocysteine. Homocysteine is a compound that, when elevated, has been linked with vascular problems and higher cardiovascular risk. Folate helps the body process it properly. And when that pathway isn't working well, blood vessels may not function as smoothly as they should. That doesn't mean every person with high blood pressure needs folate, but it does mean that in the right patient, this vitamin is much more than a footnote. It may be part of the missing explanation for why the pressure stays stubborn. Let me tell you about Eleanor. Eleanor was 69, sharp as a tack, faithful with her medication, and frustrated. Her blood pressure was never horrifying, but it was never where we wanted it either. Not terrible, not controlled, just constantly hovering in that irritating zone where every appointment became another conversation about watching it. She ate very little leafy greens, hated beans, rarely touched fortified grains, and had labs that suggested her methylation pathway wasn't exactly thriving. When we looked more carefully, her homocysteine was elevated. That changed the entire conversation, because now we weren't just saying, let's try another random supplement. We had a reason. We had a target. And when folate support was added appropriately, along with attention to the bigger picture, her numbers started behaving in a more reassuring way. Now, I need to be responsible here, because this is where internet advice becomes dangerous. Folate is helpful, yes. But if you start taking high-dose folic acid blindly, especially as an older adult, you can create confusion if you also have an unrecognized vitamin B12 deficiency. And that matters, because B12 deficiency can quietly damage nerves, while the folate makes part of the blood work look better. That's the kind of partial fix that hides a bigger problem. So when I consider folate for blood pressure support, I don't think in isolation. I think about diet, B12 status, kidney function, stroke risk, homocysteine, medications, and the entire cardiovascular story. That's the difference between thoughtful medicine and supplement roulette. But here is why folate lands this high on the list. Because unlike a lot of flashy supplements, folate actually has a rational, biologically coherent reason to matter in hypertension. And in some groups, it has shown meaningful cardiovascular benefit beyond just a tiny number on a blood pressure monitor. When I see someone with high blood pressure, poor diet quality, elevated homocysteine, or other clues that this pathway matters, folate becomes a serious conversation, not an afterthought. And if you're thinking, doctor, then why isn't folate number 1? Excellent question. Because the number 1 vitamin on this list is even more overlooked, even more specific, and in the right person, even more fascinating. It is not the most famous. It is not the most advertised. Most people have never bought it for blood pressure in their lives. And yet, for certain individuals, it may be the smartest vitamin on this entire countdown. Number 1, Riboflavin, also known as vitamin B2. Yes, Riboflavin, not the one you expected. Not the one most supplement companies build a whole marketing campaign around. Not the one your neighbors are gossiping about at the pharmacy counter. And that is exactly why I wanted to save it for last. Because Riboflavin teaches one of the most important truths in all of blood pressure care. The most effective support is sometimes the one that only works in the right biology. Riboflavin matters because of the MTHFR enzyme pathway. and specifically because some people carry a common genetic variation that seems to make this pathway less efficient. In those individuals, riboflavin may help that system work better, which may help with homocysteine handling, and in some cases, blood pressure control. That is extraordinary, not because it is universal, but because it is targeted. Let me explain it without making your head spin. Think of your body as depending on thousands of tiny chemical workers. Each one has a job. Some need tools to work properly. Riboflavin is one of those tools. In people with a certain MTHFR pattern, the tool set may be weaker, and that can affect how efficiently certain reactions happen in the body. One of the consequences appears to involve blood pressure regulation. So if you happen to be one of those people, riboflavin is no longer just another B vitamin. It becomes highly relevant. This is precision thinking. This is the opposite of blind supplement use. And once you understand that, you begin to see why some people swear a vitamin changed everything while others feel absolutely nothing. They are not starting from the same internal biology. I had a patient named Richard who had battled blood pressure issues for years. He did a lot right. He walked. He limited alcohol. He was fairly careful with sodium. Yet his pressure always seemed just a little too assertive, a little too resistant, like it had a personality of its own. What finally made us look deeper was his family story, stroke history, early vascular disease, relatives with mysterious blood pressure problems that never made much sense. When we explored the possibility of an MTHFR-related issue, suddenly the puzzle looked different. And when riboflavin support entered the picture, not as magic, but as targeted help, his readings improved in a way that finally made the whole story fit. Was riboflavin the only answer? No. But it was the answer that had been missing. This is exactly why riboflavin is my #1 vitamin in this video. Not because everyone watching should start taking it tonight. Absolutely not. It is #1 because it represents intelligent supplementation better than any other vitamin on this list. It says, stop asking what everyone else is taking. Start asking what your body needs. If you have high blood pressure, elevated homocysteine, a family history that raises eyebrows, or prior information suggesting an MTHFR issue, riboflavin deserves a real conversation with your doctor. And even if you never take it, understanding its role will protect you from one of the biggest mistakes people make in natural health, confusing popularity with precision. Medicine works best when it gets personal. Now I need to pause here because this is the part where some viewers get overly excited and miss the most important warning in the entire video. If you are already taking blood pressure medication, you cannot treat vitamins like harmless candy. You cannot stack them randomly. You cannot assume that natural means safe with everything. I have seen seniors take supplements on top of prescription drugs without telling anyone, and then act surprised when they feel dizzy, weak, lightheaded, or confused. Sometimes the pressure drops too much. Sometimes nothing happens except money is wasted. And sometimes the supplement itself is not the issue at all. The problem is that the person used the vitamin as a substitute for checking their blood pressure properly, following up, or getting help when symptoms changed. And that is where people get hurt. There's another layer here that honest doctors should tell you. If we were making a list of the most important nutrients for blood pressure overall, magnesium and potassium would absolutely be part of the conversation. But those are minerals, not vitamins. I'm bringing that up because I don't want you leaving this video with the wrong lesson. High blood pressure support is bigger than 4 vitamins. It includes minerals, sleep, exercise, weight, kidney health, medication timing, alcohol, stress, and how much sodium is hiding in food that doesn't even taste salty. So if you've been hoping one vitamin will let you keep every damaging habit unchanged, I need to stop you right there. That is not how this works. Blood pressure is rarely defeated by a shortcut. Let me tell you about Martha, because her story is one I wish every senior could hear. Martha was 76 and deeply committed to the idea of doing things naturally. I respect that instinct, truly. But somewhere along the way, naturally turned into without proper supervision. She bought vitamin D, then vitamin C, then a B complex, then an herbal blood pressure blend, then another one, because the first one promised support and the second one promised maximum support. Within 2 months, she was taking 7 non-prescription products a day, and still eating frozen dinners, sleeping 5 hours, and checking her blood pressure only when she felt scared. Her numbers were still high. She felt betrayed, but she hadn't failed. Her strategy had failed. Once we simplified everything, corrected what actually mattered, and made the plan rational, her blood pressure finally started moving in the right direction. That is why I don't want you to hear this video as a shopping guide. I want you to hear it as a decision-making guide. A real doctor does not look at high blood pressure and say, "Take this one trendy thing and call me later." A real doctor asks questions. Are you deficient? Are you inflamed? Is your diet weak? Are your kidneys involved? Are you sleeping? Are you retaining fluid? Is your blood pressure high all day or mostly in the morning? Are your readings even accurate? Do you have symptoms? Do you have vascular disease? All of that matters. And when you place vitamins inside that larger picture, they become useful. When you rip them out of context, they become gambling. And your heart should never be placed on a roulette wheel. So if you're wondering what to do next, let me make this practical. First, do not change or stop your prescribed blood pressure medication because of a video. That is not wise, and it can be dangerous. Second, if you want to explore vitamins, start with your actual situation, not the supplement aisle. Ask whether your vitamin D has been checked. Ask whether folate, B12, or homocysteine deserve attention. Ask whether a targeted conversation about riboflavin makes sense. Look honestly at how much real vitamin C is coming from food. And if you're using supplements already, write them down and show them to your clinician. Not some of them, all of them. Your doctor cannot protect you from interactions or overuse if you keep half the story hidden. Third, remember that blood pressure numbers respond to routines. If you measure only when you feel nervous, the readings will scare you. If you measure at random times after caffeine, poor sleep, or stress, the log becomes noise. So before you decide whether a vitamin is helping, you need a calm, consistent way to track the result. Same chair, same arm, same time pattern. A rested body, no frantic checking every 20 minutes. Otherwise, you're trying to judge subtle improvement with chaotic data, and chaos is not a medical plan. It is just anxiety wearing a lab coat. Now let me bring this all together, because there's a deeper message in this video that matters more than the ranking itself. Number 4, vitamin D reminds us that deficiency can quietly make blood pressure harder to manage. Number 3, vitamin C reminds us that blood vessel health matters and modest support can still be meaningful. Number 2, folate reminds us that chemistry beneath the surface can affect pressure and stroke risk in ways most people never see. And number 1, riboflavin reminds us that the smartest natural support is sometimes the one that fits a very particular biological pattern. That is the lesson. Not more supplements, better matching. Precision over popularity. And if you've been living with high blood pressure for years, I want to speak to you directly for a moment. Please do not lose heart just because nothing has felt simple. Hypertension frustrates good people. It confuses disciplined people. It wears down patients who feel like they're trying and not getting rewarded. I understand that. But progress often begins the moment you stop chasing broad promises and start respecting the specifics of your own body. That is when the picture clears. That is when you stop asking, what should everyone take? And start asking, what is my pressure trying to tell me? That shift changes everything. It turns fear into strategy. Before we finish, I want to give you one final warning and one final encouragement. The warning is this: if your blood pressure is running very high, or you have symptoms like chest pain, shortness of breath, weakness, confusion, or anything that feels sudden and frightening, do not sit there experimenting with vitamins. Get medical attention. Please, do not gamble with time when the brain and heart are involved. The encouragement is this: there is a lot you can do, truly. Thoughtful supplementation, food changes, movement, better sleep, medication review, weight management, lower sodium, and smarter tracking can work together powerfully. You are not helpless. But you do need a plan that is wiser than marketing. So here's the takeaway I want you to remember tonight. The best vitamins to lower high blood pressure naturally are not the strongest ones. They are the ones that solve the right problem. Vitamin D, if deficiency, is part of the picture. Vitamin C when vascular support and diet quality need attention. Folate when the methylation and homocysteine story matters. Riboflavin when the biology points toward that MTHFR pathway. That is how doctors should think. Not louder claims, not prettier labels, better fit. That is what protects you. That is what makes natural support actually intelligent. If this helped you, subscribe and stay with me. Because this channel is here to protect you from health myths, expensive mistakes, and silent risks that too many seniors never see coming. Share this with someone who has high blood pressure and a cabinet full of supplements because they may need this more than they realize. Your blood pressure deserves more than guesswork. Your heart deserves more than trends. And you deserve a plan that is calm, clear, and grounded in what actually makes sense. Take care of yourself, keep asking smart questions, and I'll see you in the next video.